right, Doom v. Vamus v. Vamus Epicureans. This is the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast One-Shot Edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm happy to be joined again by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
Doing good. Nice little break over Thanksgiving. Happy to be back and doing this with you. How was the festivities for you, sir?
It was good. We hosted Thanksgiving, so we had about 14 people, which was a little lighter than what we normally do.
Wait,
but,
that's light?
You know,
Wow.
yeah. We my sister-in-law and her daughter, my niece, went to Turkey actually because her boyfriend lives in Turkey, so they went to visit him there. And then my brother and sister, although only my brother did it this year, so he's got four in his family with the two kids. They're starting to do like the 1 year with the in-laws, 1 year with the one side of the family, one side of the other. So they did the other side of the family this year. So yeah, normally we're six more than what we had this time around. My son turned 16, so he has a learner's permit, and we took him out to dinner one night, and he had some friends over another night. So it's the whole week was kind of packed. How about yourself?
Good. Went up to see my wife's family. So we've kind of fallen into a pattern of going to see her family over Thanksgiving, and usually going to see mine over the Christmas break. So her family is relatively small, so they kept it kind of nice, close knit. I do understand the big ones though. My father's side of the family, we used to do Thanksgiving with them, and he has 10 brothers and sisters, and vast majority of them are married with kids, and so those used to be big affairs, but haven't been to one of those. Took my wife to one at one point, but for the most part, we've just gone to her family. So no, it was a good time, and I got a ton of epics read. Let's see, the entirety of our next full episode, Avengers West Coast, got that whole thing cracked out. Got most of the current book that we are now working on for the Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, hosted by Kurtis Findlay. So I'm happy to start talking about the Fate of the Phoenix. Wait, yeah, the Fate of the Phoenix. I thought I got it wrong there for a second. Okay.
It should have almost been called the Dark Phoenix Saga, which is, kind of get you confused with that. I am not as far ahead with the epic reading as you are. So while I'm on track for what we're going to record now, I got to get back into the rhythm for Avengers West Coast. I think I would not be your favorite student because I think I do things at the last minute, and kind of get the procrastination helps me.
Hey, no worries. For me, I could crack it out because I didn't have to work, right? When I actually have a job, that's when things are difficult. Okay, so you guys, we've already posted our solo episodes that we did to make up for while we were gone over the break. We're happy to be back again. This one might come out a little late because this is December 1st episode. This is Uncanny X Men number 133, Wolverine Alone. All right, so... as the title says, Alone, Wolverine begins to work his way up from the basement of the Hellfire Club's inner circle, where he hopes to rescue the X-Men. Meanwhile, Jean has fully been taken over by Mastermind and has been treating the captured X-Men quite horribly. Back in New Mexico, which was mistakenly referred to as Arizona in the text, and granted, the buttes, it does kind of look more like Arizona, but technically Angel is in New Mexico, we've been told. Jean had established a psychic rapport with Cyclops, which Psyche was hoping to use to snap Jean out of this mind control. However, when Cyclops enters the astral plane, he finds Mastermind is there, and he fights Cyclops in a duel, and of course, defeats the X-Man. All right, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
I mean, look, this volume and these issues are the best that we're probably going to read through for a while. So, and this issue in particular really elevates Wolverine to the badassery that everybody expects from him. I mean, this is the first time you've seen him, as the title says, alone, going through mowing down people, although they keep the blood and gore, to 80s standards, and really going through and owning this stuff and showing you why he's the best there is at what he does. The other thing about these issues that I didn't mention in the solo shows, but probably bears mentioning is that the the restoration, the colors, the printing, all of this stuff is top notch because this had the Masterworks treatment. This had, the restoration. This has been printed in every edition that Marvel probably puts out there in one way, shape, or form. So you're kind of spoiled by the colors, the crispness of everything in this particular volume. It just looks great. I love that we sort of do a transition here with the outgoing X-Man of Banshee and the incoming X-Man of Angel being sort of around with the X-Men here. And I really like the Hellfire Club. I like the goons, the henchmen. I know I think they call them goons, but I like Hellfire henchmen better for the alliteration.
Yeah.
I think the Curtis mentioned this on his live stream today about how they talk to each other and they use their real names and they're having side conversations. I think all of that's great. I think that their costumes are not overly cartoonish. Like they're still henchman costumes, but they look like something out of GI Joe or something like that. I also enjoy how like they're laying a lot of groundwork throughout these issues for future stuff. So you hear Senator Kelly's name
Yeah.
mentioned in here, and he's going to have a big part in storylines right around the corner as things go forward. So yeah, there's a lot to love in this issue. What did you think?
Yeah, it's it at risk of sounding like a broken record, same thing. Lots to love. Solid action-packed issue, builds the tension for a resolution coming up soon, hopefully. And again, the tension of Wolverine trying to fight and sneak his way through, and he's not wholesale slaughtering people. He makes the point of there's a time when you need to beat people up, and then there's a time when you need to be sneaky. All that's great. Cyclops attempting to free Jean, that was really interesting. And maybe that's a little hokey, right? The psychic rapport, and suddenly he can find a way to get into the astral plane. But you do give some liberties in comics with in regards to not being exactly like reality. But it's comic books; it's fine.
Well, what's nice with that though is that that wasn't a one and done thing. I mean
True.
that they have that to this day. Gene's died and been resurrected, and this, that, and the other thing over the years, but they still have that psychic rapport, now. So, I think I would maybe jump on the somewhat hokiness, comic bookiness if it was only used in this one storyline. And granted, at the time, you didn't know that it was going to be used in the future, but this is something that continues. So.
Yeah, come to think of it, does Chris Claremont? I don't know this. He doesn't ever deal with this Jean again, does he? Like he doesn't reintroduce her again in the future when she comes back. I don't know. It's
No, he so during his second run, he's Gene is there. Well, wait, Gene is no, Gene's around during like the X Men in the '90s, and that's when his
right.
run ends. So
Okay.
he writes her for at least in X Men 1, 2, and 3, or whatever issue he stops with in the '90s, and then a little bit in Uncanny before that, before he jumps off there. And then he does write her again. She's around in that Revolution era, which is like X Men 400 or something like that, but it's really short because it was like a whole thing to revive that whole X line and it didn't work and they cut it bait on it really quick. But she gets killed again in Grant Morrison's new X-Men. So when he's back for his third round, he's not writing Jean, he's writing Rachel Summers more than Jean. So he does play with that, but their paths only cross for so long.
Yeah, the many lives of Jean Grey, right? What there's also, is it Mary Magdalene's a clone or so? I shouldn't say too much because if people haven't read these things, but I just remember Jean's an X Factor too. And I've read some of this stuff, but I haven't read it all. But anyway, that's for future us to worry about.
Yep.
All right, yeah, solid issue. Any final thoughts, Stoger?
My final thought is that uh, the the shouting of Nightcrawler on the last page as Cyclops is dead is hilarious as we start off our next podcast with the next issue.
All right, then we'll take it there. All right, thank you very much, guys. Again, if you enjoyed our thoughts, our thoughts. We didn't really fight, but our thoughts. Follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full Epic Collection trade paperback once a month. We're going to have these one-shots every day. We're also on pretty much all the audio podcast catchers out there. So if you prefer to listen, by all means, catch us there. All right. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Go on.